Thank you. Welcome to the Thursday, March 20th, 2025 regular meeting of the Talawanda City School District Board of Education. Ms. Tefelsky, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. King? Here. Mr. Mead?
Here.
Mr. Otto?
Here.
Mr. Wyatt?
Here.
Dr. Howard?
Here. Thank you. Our first item, before we approve the agenda as amended, we're actually adding another item to the very end under future board events, potentially adding a special session with executive session for this coming Wednesday, March 26th at 6 o'clock. There were a few other changes between the original posting of the agenda and tonight. Dr. Thoreau, can you explain those?
What was the date? I'm sorry.
Wednesday, March 26th at 6 o'clock.
The changes were changing, of course, to amended, updated and replaced the TMS presentation, needing an edit, changes Miss Thor to Dr. Thor, she's a doctor, added DeMott's contract document and changed wording under it, added approval of contingency fund for THS turf field replacement project, added approval of AVI systems quote, replaced Shauna's funding presentation due to an edit, added a classified staff for approval to be hired, and added a copy of Mr. Mann's employment contract to the executive content.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
He beat you, Chris.
Fair and square.
Any discussion? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King? Yes. Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Thank you. All right, if you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag tonight. You know where it usually is. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Butler Tech and Career Development School Liaison Report, Mr. Mead.
We have some presentations tonight, so I'll keep this short. Most of this would be for the board members. Butler Tech is having their all boards meeting on May 1st. Board members have a chance to go early and see student showcases. You could also see student showcases on April 24th. You will get an invitation in the mail. Student showcases, I think I can probably get you a schedule of when and where Talawanda students will be presenting, since we have 4 different campuses they might be at on those 2 days. And then the May 1st meeting includes a dinner cooked by our culinary arts students. And another chance to support at least one Talawanda student is Cafe Lee serves lunch on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We went yesterday, my wife and I. Austin Spay, who is a Talawanda student, was in charge and arranged the meal and was sort of head chef. It was some great Indian food. And I know 2 weeks from yesterday and today, another Talawanda student is sort of head chef. So you can look that up on their website, and you have to get reservations. It fills up quickly. But so our students get to do a lot of good things at Butler Tech. And that's my report for tonight.
Thank you. One of the things I love about this community is the closeness of it. Austin Spay was one of my preschoolers a long time ago. Amazing young man. Mr. Wyatt, Legislative Liaison Report.
Okay, it's not going to be a long report like the last time, but I do believe that March 20th, 2025 is a date that'll live in infamy. We have a president who signed an executive order today to dismantle the Federal Department of Education. And we have an enormous amount of challenges that we're facing right now in Columbus concerning the budget. But there is some hope, and the hope is that you have your voice. And your voice matters a heck of a lot more than us on the stage as school board members. The parents, the teachers, the students, community members, It is your time to reach out to our lawmakers, to let them know what your opinions are about the future funding of our district and about the state of Ohio and public education. That's why we're hosting a community legislative forum. We're co-hosting it with the Oxford League of Women Voters for this Monday at 6 p.m. here in this room, so we can go over the budget, some of the possible impacts of the budget cuts that have been proposed, what it would mean to our district and our future, and also how best to reach out to our legislators to let them know your story and about how this is going to affect you, your children, and the future of our community. So I hope to see everybody out here on Monday at 6 o'clock to talk about that. So thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder, though, too, that we have looked into it as a co-sponsored forum. It's not a board meeting, and because of sunshine laws, that means no more than 2 board members can participate. At this point, obviously, Mr. Wyatt is going to be there. He organized it, and Mr. Mead, who is the co-organizer. So thank you for that. Arts and athletics report. I'm not going to say a lot about athletics because Mr. Richardson is going to do the winter sport wrap-up in April. I do just want to say we've had great performances by athletes in track and field, swim and dive, basketball, and wrestling. Congratulations to all those athletes, and you're going to hear about those accomplishments specifically next month. They also, the athletic boosters, had a very successful booster bash on February 15th, so thank you to the boosters who continue to, our booster organizations really are central to our success and support of our students. So thank you to the athletic boosters for all they do. Thank you to everyone who came to that event. Speaking of boosters, the band boosters had their Music Suite Music event on Wednesday, March 1st, also very well attended, and thank you to everyone in that organization. I do have a few arts things I want to shout out. Talawanda High School, Melanie Mortimer and her amazing students did a production of Little Shop of Horrors this past weekend. It is not an easy show, and they did a fabulous job at it. So thank you to Ms. Mortimer, thank you to all of the students, thank you to the families who supported, and thank you to the number of people and organizations in the community who stepped up with donations to support that production, because it's also kind of an expensive production to do. You have to rent those puppets. Audrey, you know, the big plant. You've got to rent those, and it's expensive. So thank you to everyone involved with that. Congratulations to the 10 Talawanda Middle School students who were selected for the OMEA District 13 Honor Band. Upcoming events, the marching band show reveal is scheduled for Tuesday the 25th at 7 o'clock. Is that correct? During spring break? Who knows? Oh no, it's not. It's not your spring break. It's Miami's spring break. Yeah, sorry, I have too many spring breaks. I'm trying to keep track.
Let me look.
So Tuesday the 25th, 7 o'clock.
Correct, we're in school.
The Bogan third grade music performance is Wednesday the 26th at 6:30. The Bogan fourth grade performance, music performance is Tuesday, April 8th at 6:30, and the Marshall first grade music performance is Thursday, April 10th at 7 o'clock. So keep those on your calendar as well. Thank you. All right, student achievement, academic liaison report, Mrs. King.
Yes, I'm going to start here with the Talawanda FFA. 12 members applied for and received their state degrees and will walk across the stage at the Ohio FFA convention. 10 alumni members applied for their American degrees and have moved past the state evaluations. This is the largest group that's applied in the chapter's history. 4 of our FFA members applied for proficiencies, and 2 of them are top 4 finalists in the state of Ohio. Awesome job to Elle Moeller, Sarah Watkins, Kaylee Shepard, Lehman, and Celia Gunther. Congrats to Kaylee and Celia for being top 4. The Shop Showdown event was planned to give FFA members an opportunity to explore multiple trades through hands-on experience. We had 15 students compete in the event. The topics were covered. Those included welding, concrete, tractor troubleshooting, woodworking, and small engines. First place went to Andrew Root, second place to Wyatt French, third to Jake Algeyer, fourth to Jacob Mackin, and fifth place to Gunnar Henson. For the ag sales team, they placed second in their district contest. Members Addie, Hunter, Lily, and Addison. This year we had 3 public speaking competitors, Abby Egbert, Stella Nienover, and Addison Asher. Congrats to all 3 for placing first in the sub-district event. The ag sales team is comprised of members Addison Roller, Hunter Gunther, Lily Richardson, and Addison Reddy. They placed second in the district contest at Ross High School. We wish the ag sales team good luck next month as they move on to the state contest. And as for the schools, I was aware that the teachers union had sent an email to teachers encouraging them to come to meetings and speak. And in order to reduce redundancy, I would much rather hear the teachers talk about the accomplishments of the students than have me simply read a report. So I look forward to that.
Thank you. Mr. Otto, Financial Liaison Report.
Yes, I met earlier this month with Mr. Hubbard, Mr. Fauski, and Dr. Thoreau and found out that we need to put new lighting in the high school. The vendor that provides the lighting, it's a proprietary license, and they are no longer going to provide the parts that they put installed. So we'll be having to look at that. I'm sure they'll do it for a certain amount of dollars, which will be exorbitant. But we're going to, Mr. Hubbard has gone out and gotten some bids. We're going to look at those bids on April 14th and see if we can get a lower price and a system that's more generic that matches our current systems in all of our other buildings. The other thing we found out is that if we change the lighting in the middle school, we could generate savings. And so we'll be looking at doing that and then creating some long-term savings because we'll have a different lighting system and reduce the utility usage. That's all.
Thank you. All right, resolutions and presentations. First up is Ms. Kim Daggy with our Legends and Lore.
Push in
think it's
closer,
on.
Kim.
Can you hear me? Got it. Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening, Dr. Thoreau and board members tonight. I wanted to present a program called Legends and Lore Marker. It's a grant application to move forward with what you see up here.
It's slow sometimes.
There we go. Oh, too far. Sorry. As you can see up here is an example of an actual marker and what it looks like. This isn't the one that we would like to present, but just to give you an example of how different it looks compared to a historical marker that you've seen out in the community. This is just a slight table of contents if you were reviewing the PowerPoint presentation prior to this evening. Enjoy Oxford is the city's Visitors Bureau, so we are charged with helping to drive economic impact for the city of Oxford, and we do this in several ways. One is advertising and promotion, also visitor engagement and destination development. Paired with that, we've been charged with the Oxford Tomorrow plan through City Council that was developed in 2023 to do year-round activities as well to help drive economic year-round and not just during the off-seasons when our population shifts, and also to promote culture throughout the community. So pairing that all together, for tourism with the Legends and Lore historical marker, we want to promote cultural tourism, and one way to do that is through this legend. And as you see throughout the presentation, we've picked someone particular. The overview of this grant program is from the William Pomeroy Foundation. I learned about it about a year ago. The Ohio Arts Council sent out an email to convention and visitor bureaus in Ohio about the program. There's currently an offering in 14 states, and also we have 185 markers in total, with only 2 markers that I could find in Ohio. So it would bring more attention to our state. And Camden isn't that too far away, so linking 2 markers together to drive, hopefully, new visitors to Oxford, Ohio. The application is due coming up quickly, but it is ongoing, so we could always apply at the next rotation. And it does provide full funding of the marker without any matching requirements. I did meet with the Historical, Architectural, and Preservation Committee to review some potentials and also to have their support. And we've chosen Harry Toby. It's Miami's #1 sports fan. The location would be the marker at 131 West Chestnut Street. And he's also known for his distinctive attire and enthusiastic support, so kind of that legend. Next steps, of course, I'm here this evening to ask your permission, since this is on Talawanda School District property. I didn't want to apply for the grant without your blessing.
We got our guy on it.
Test.
Going to switch out the microphone.
Thank you, everyone, and viewers at home, for your patience while we resolve our tech issue. It's always the batteries, isn't it?
Now we're back on. All right. So I was reviewing next steps. Next would be the maintenance of the marker. Of course, my board of directors asked me about that as well. It's very simple. Once it's installed, usually a public department or civic organization will volunteer to help with this. It's just an annual cleaning of mild soap and water. And since my staff and I currently wash bricks for the Porsche car show as giving us an award, I think we can handle scrubbing down a marker once a year. Also, if there's replacement or damage to the marker, we can notify the foundation by email and for guidance on next steps. So I've included the website for the foundation and the grant applications about this Legends and Lore program if you wanted to explore or have more questions with frequently asked questions or anything about the program. But I thank you for considering this evening.
Can I ask why the board building? What's the connection between Mr. Toby and the board building?
I did include a little bit more historical. I had emailed a letter in support from Brad. I am not the historian, and I do not claim to be the historian. But if I have permission to read? Mm-hmm. Okay. To whom it may concern, this is from Brad Spurlock, the Smith Library Regional History. He is the manager at Lane Library. I wish to express my support for the installation of Ohio Legends and Lore roadside marker commemorating Harry Tobey at the Talawanda School Board of Education Building, 131 West Chestnut Street. Harry Tobey was a master stonemason, and notably eccentric sports fan, remembered by history not only for his mastery of his trade, but also for his enthusiastic support of the Cincinnati Reds and local sports teams. Tobey is also nationally recognized for his status as a superfan through a sculpture of him being placed on exhibit in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. There is no better location for a Legends and Lore roadside marker commemorating Tobey than the Board of Education building, as both that structure and the structure next door at 203 West Chestnut Street showcase Tobey's masonry better than any other structures currently in existence. As a commemoration of his nature, supports the mission of the Lane Libraries to satisfy the curiosity, intellect, and imagination of the community that we share with Talawanda schools. I once again would like to voice my support for installation of this marker.
Thank you. Yeah, I asked you to read that just to make sure everybody understood that connection. It's not just that he was an amazing sports fan, but I think there are some other buildings and things around town that he was involved. I think over on the campus, Miami campus, there might be a couple of buildings that he also did. Just, again, incredible stonework, as well as being a super fan. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to let you know, we will be making a decision later on, and I'll let you know. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you again.
All right, Dr. Thor, our middle school update.
All right. First, I want to thank you all for letting me present this evening, the board and Dr. Thoreau. This is a great opportunity for me to brag about the building that I have inherited in Talawanda, and I have committed so much of my heart and soul to so far. It's a fabulous place, and I appreciate this opportunity. All right, first of all, I tied in the strategic plan themes in here, and I kind of wanted to explain that. You'll see on the slide in the upper right-hand corner, it says brave. I didn't want you to think that I didn't know how to spell the word brave, so as we go through the slides, some of the letters are missing because I tried to connect those activities to the particular areas that they would be connecting to here with our strategic plan. First, we're going to talk about academics. I know you've heard some of this information already, but some of it is something to really, truly be proud of, so I wanted the opportunity to present again this evening. Our sixth grade math was the highest math score in the county. Data shows a steady increase in most of our areas on the report card. And we got a 4-star rating, and if you compare all the middle schools in Butler County, there are about 5 of us with the 4-star. There's 1 above us with a 4.5, and then everybody else settles into like a 3.5, a 3, a 2.5. So we're very proud of the work that's been done and the growth that you'll see. I put up the 23 report card here because I just wanted to be able to provide some quick comparisons. If you look, we were at a 3.5 just 1 year previous to the 24. And each of the areas, the achievement, the progress, and the gap closing. When I switch to the next slide, you'll see we've increased in each of those areas. Now, this is our value-added data, which is that growth piece of the student performance. And this is the 23 data, so really all you need to kind of focus on is the areas with the dots and the colors. So the yellow is where we had less growth than expected for a student. The green is an area kind of on a sliding scale there of where students have made the expected amount of growth. And then blue, of course, is where they've exceeded in what the expected growth would be. So there's 23. Our comparison to 24 is tremendous growth. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. Our teachers are very dedicated and work very hard. All of our staff do, and I believe the results are really showing. I also wanted to point out on the achievement. When you look at this graph, the blue, well, bluish purple and the pink are the areas that are limited and basic. Those are the areas that you want to continually see get smaller. The other three areas, the proficient, the gold, the accomplished, which is green, well, there's 4, your advanced, which is the blackish, and then your advanced plus, are all the areas that you want to see get larger, with the exception of the proficient. It can fluctuate larger or smaller. Now, as you look, when we went from 21 to 24, that proficient did get smaller, but there was tremendous growth in the accomplished, the advanced, and the advanced plus. And if you look at the numbers across the top, you will see that that performance index has gone over 4 years from a 78 to an 87, and that's quite a bit of growth for a school. So here's where both those things tie in. We have been awarded the Momentum Award. It's awarded by the state of Ohio. 193 schools in the state out of 3,136 public schools that were eligible received this award. And you had to have a combination of a performance index increase by 3 or more points, and then also receive that 4-star on the value-added progress rating on the report card. We have done both of those things, so we're very, very proud of that. I also included, for anybody that was looking through here, just a quote from Michael Clark's Journal News article that he had published on the award, just testament to the fact that the state recognizes the hard work by the staff of those buildings and the dedication to have received that award. That's a copy of the award, and as soon as our frame comes in, you will see it hanging in the building when you come in, so I'm excited to have that out. All right, academic supports. In order to be able to get there, these are some of the things that we do to support our students academically. We have a green slip program where students, if they're missing assignments or need to make up some work, they get a green slip. It goes home to the family. It also shows exactly what they need to make up, and they get the opportunity to have a certified teacher assist them with that on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. We have an extra time, extra help bell during the day where students can be assigned. That's more for the students that need a little bit of organizational support, somebody to sit with them and help them realize what papers they don't have, what they do have, what needs to be turned in, because some of our students still need that, and especially when they come to us in 6th grade, they need that type of support. Brave time, which is noontime, it's the 4th bell. Students get a brave time every day. We allow students to possibly be assigned to a tutorial and study hall for our 6th grade. 7th grade and 8th will pull students into their groups when they need specific academic help, as well as the 6th grade, so that we can support those students with their work. We've also added a 0 bell or morning school to our building, which is kind of like the evening school that the high school does, the night school, and it allows us to be able to meet the needs of some of the students that have found themselves not to be successful in a traditional environment. So we can have them work. We have a teacher and an intervention specialist that work with them and help them to be successful still with their education in an alternative setting. Enrichment and field trips, these are ones that you've probably heard of every year, and there have been more, but I wanted to put a couple of pictures in here. Glen Helen is a tradition for our 6th graders. Washington, D.C. is, of course, a tradition for 8th graders pretty much across the state. Kings Island, Music in the Parks, great program, and it happens with different schools and different theme parks. Great opportunity for the students to go and perform and then still enjoy and celebrate their performance in the end of the school year. We look at physical needs for our students. We provide opportunities such as the mobile dentist, where we have students who otherwise can't get to a dentist. They're able to take that service in our building. We, of course, are fortunate to have a nurse in the building so that we can provide them with not only medical needs, but she'll also support students with clothing and other additional family needs. This year, we have added a Butler County Success Liaison. The two things I listed on here are only part of what she can do, but she's going to start a program where she's sending home, like the backpack club, they used to call it, where you're sending food bags home with some of the students that have signed up and are in need. And then also she can assist with housing needs, connections in the community for our families, assistance with clothing. So this is something that is really supporting our students, and we appreciate that that opportunity was provided by you all and Dr. Thoreau to be able to be here. Healthy food choices, of course, always. PE options for each grade level, so they're not just saying you can only have PE in 6th grade. You can take it another time if you need that physical activity. Maybe you don't get that physical activity at home. And then, of course, athletics and after-school programs. Today, I got to walk in and get a bag from one group that was in a club. They had a nutritionalist and her interns from Miami there, and they were making healthy snacks and learning about healthy eating. So I had a kid come out with 5 bags, and he goes, "Would you like one?" I said, "Absolutely, of course." So he shared one with me. So we have a lot of programs like that going on at school. And that leads into extracurricular opportunities. We have several after-school programs. The fishing club is one that you will hear the kids talk about, and even the staff. Today they were making fishing lures. It's a little too chilly to be at the pond, but eventually they'll be out fishing as they were in the fall. We host Latin Club with our 6th graders here, and Miami students come and support us with that. We have a Builders Club that is a service organization. They raise money for different projects, and they have served Kiwanis at a recent dinner, so we'll see a couple pictures of that. Point 4 is just a list of some of the other clubs that we have after school, and 5 are the number of athletes that we have participating each year. Now, I am proud to say that when we pulled the average score, or the average grades for those, our 7th graders ranged averagely about 3.2, but my 8th graders, their GPA average is like 3.46 to 3.55, the average. So we know that those students are still working very hard academically as well as being involved in those activities. We've had an intergenerational book club. I stumble on that one every time I say it. It's in conjunction with Lane Library. It was so much fun to watch because you would pop in the rooms where they were doing the groups. Everybody could not fit in one, so we had about 3 or 4 groups going at a time, and you had everything from seniors down to our 6th grade students that were involved in that. They're sitting there, they're reading the book. The discussions between, say, parents and teachers and students were fabulous. Just the conversations that you could hear going on. It was a great opportunity, I believe, for everyone that was involved. Brave Time is something that I mentioned before. For 7th and 8th graders, it is not only academic. There's an entire list of clubs that are on there. And we just had a chess club tournament where we declared a couple of winners because they've been practicing chess. And that was a club that really evolved from students working and wanting to learn about that and one of their teachers. So he presented it, we added it to our list, and that list will probably continue to grow and grow every year. We had a project, a couple of our board members got the opportunity to come over and visit. We raised funds for Water for the Sudan. We had a school-wide read where we read a book, A Long Walk to Water. Every student was read 2 passages every day for about a week. We did projects. That evening, the event, we did a walkathon to raise money. We also auctioned off rain barrels. And you probably see a few of them around the community in yards. You're going to see one at my brother's house if you drive down 73. We had dramatic readings. It was just a really great evening. We had families that came and participated in several of the events. So it was really very exciting. And a lot of learning activities that evening presented as well. Builders Club, there again, those are photos of those students in that community service organization. Great group of students, very dedicated to what they do and helping others. Social emotional supports for our students. We have Best Point and Primary Health Solutions that both provide individual therapy support for our students. Best Point also provides within our building a day treatment program or group help group therapy, so they are able to provide that assistance to students. Our Butler County Success Liaison, I put on here again because I feel that meeting those essential needs of a student and family are helping to support the mental health needs. And then we also have therapy dogs. Unfortunately, this month is their last visit for the year. They're as much my mental health moment as anybody else's. They'll come visit the office, and then they're down in the media center, of course. Students and classes can sign up to come down, and it's just that little calming moment that some of those kids really need to be able to kind of get through a tough day. We are very safety focused at TMS. We have reallocated some funds to get a couple of additional BRICS radios, the really nice heavy duty ones, so that everybody can communicate inside and out in case of any emergency. We've also added some striping. We are going to be doing some new signage in the parking lot, some new safety gear for my staff that go out on duty. We have our light sticks, we call them lightsabers at work, and then our reflective vests that we wear out because it can be a little dark sometimes at morning duty, and we want to make sure that everybody can see and keep everyone safe. We want the students to know who the person is they're going to so that we can get them across that crosswalk that we had painted. So we're excited about that. We also have a building safety team that reviews all types of things, policies, procedures, fire drills. We talk about everything and just try to make sure that we're providing the safest environment that we possibly can for our students and staff at TMS. We also did 100 positive calls. This feeds into that mental health piece as well. We connected with families, we recognize improvements of students, and we provide encouragement. It's just important. This was on the 100th day of school, which actually got bumped a couple of times because of some snow, but we were able to go through with this, got over 100 calls out to families, and I would love to see us continue with this every year because it's a great, great program and a good support for those students and families. Now, PBS at TMS, that's equals Brave Bucks in our mind. So at your seat today, I snuck up there before most of you arrived, you have a Brave Buck. Now, if you want to come by TMS and cash it in on a Friday, you're welcome to do so. But I wanted you just to see the physical piece of what we're talking about when we talk about students earning Brave Bucks. They can get Brave Bucks for doing something kind. They can get Brave Bucks for bringing up grades. They can get Brave Bucks for grades, all types of things that the students can be involved in, and they get to earn Brave Bucks. And then we have a Brave Buck shop, and we also have Brave Buck days. And so the one picture that you see on the bottom right is a Bigfoot hunt. It was cold and snowy, and they did go out and hunt for Bigfoot out in the back 40 behind our building. I believe they did discover him a far ways off. And then, of course, we have our Brave Buck team, our Brave Shop team, and then some of the students purchasing or setting up at the Brave Shop to be able to allow students to come in and spend those Brave Bucks. It's been a great incentive. We have a lot of families who will donate items to us. We will purchase some items. The kids get excited about it. We had one come in the other day, and I shouldn't elaborate, but I am a storyteller. One of our students came in the other day. She's a great kid. She comes and checks in with us all the time about her grades. She runs in, shows me something she has in a little bag that she wants to give to Miss Arnis. They had like Mickey Mouse head earrings, and Beth, if you don't know, is like a Disney World addict. So she was so excited to do that, and then they took a picture together to kind of show off a little bit. But the kids really enjoy this, and they work hard for those Brave Bucks. Even some of the kids that you would think perhaps not will come around and say, are there any projects I can do? Is there anything I can do to earn some before Brave Buck Day? And of course, we always try to come up with positive ways for those students to be involved and be able to earn some of those Brave Bucks. Community partnerships, we have several, so I'm not going to laundry list things here, but there's some bragging things I want to talk about just briefly. Annie Klink received a $35,000 grant to improve our bleachers. And so if you haven't been there since that was installed, it is very exciting. It's an automated system, so it makes it better for pulling it out and putting it back, saves time. But it also has handles, so anybody who is going up to sit in the bleachers, you can stabilize yourself a little bit to go up and down. They've also had, in Mr. Dennis's shop, have had created steps, because we all know those first steps on a bleachers is pretty steep. He's created some steps to kind of get you a boost up, so it's a half step, so you can step up on there. The other exciting piece that didn't come out of the grant, but it is a new look for us, we have new banners that have been hung. And eventually we will have league champion dates on there for each of the different sports that we participate in. And then, of course, our scoreboards have been updated. So we're just excited about the fact that the gym looks a little new thanks to those grants. I know that Mrs. King had presented some of this information a couple of months ago, so I'm not going to go through all of it. But Mary Rupert does engineering technology, and she writes a lot of grants for us. And this had a total of $15,000. She walked in the other day. This was already done. She says, I got another $2,500 for these more Blinky robots. It's a small robot piece that the kids are building and able to use in the classroom and programming. So she was really excited about that. I was kind of excited about this. One of the current projects that students are working on in her class are keychains. Now, not every kid's keychain looks like the one that you have at your seat today, but these are gifts for you from TMS, from engineering technology. We had a kid prototype this. The letters were not quite straight, and they were black, and so they worked a little bit. Mary helped to work them out, and then they printed a series so we could hand them out to you tonight. But this is an example of what we're able to do with our 3D printers. I was sharing, and I'll do this very briefly too. We have a student in the class so excited about a project he was working on. His mom is coming home. He said she'd been gone a long time, and you know there are several possibilities of where that could be, so I'm like not getting into a lot of detail with him. And I don't know if she was in the service or what. And he says, she's coming home and I want a gift for her. He 3D printed a box with an open lid and 2 dice that are like so perfect. They have numbers on them, the little bitty rounded edges, and you can actually roll them and come up with numbers. And that was a gift because he said, I love to play games with my mom. So the kids are all working on a variety of exciting projects in that room. They get to program drones. I mean, there's so many fun things that happen there or in the after-school club that she runs. So that is just invaluable experience for our students. We do partnership with Hamilton Urban Garden League, and I'm hoping to continue this partnership and grow it, but they've given us another tower that we have lettuce growing in. It's a hydroponics tower. They've also given us some tabletop units that we're going to expand and put in other classrooms next year. And we were able to let staff start supplementing their salad with the lettuce from that just the past couple days. So we took some materials in, and bowls and salad dressing and some other things so they could supplement their lunch and be able to enjoy that. Because if we pick and prune that, we're going to have another season of that before the end of the school year. So great opportunity for our kids to see how that is done, how you feed those, and how they grow. And then we also received a grant. Scott Dennis wrote a grant for $12,500, and we were really excited to get this. It's for a new project at school. It is something that will impact class and clubs, and it was from McCullough Hyde Foundation. It's to create a mountain bike experience with these students. It ties in with his curriculum during the day to their study about the history of the Wright brothers, the building of bicycles, flight. So he's tying that in with that. Eventually, after school, we have goals to write more grants and have a path for kids. There are some resources. He's partnered with somebody already that's talking about coming in and helping the kids learn to repair bikes. So this is something that I'm excited about and hope to see grow again in the future. And then I just want to thank you so much, not only for the opportunity to present, but for the opportunity to have this bring joy to my life every day when I'm at TMS.
Excellent. Thank you for your leadership. Congratulations to your staff and students for all the improvements. I thoroughly enjoyed the Water for Sudan event. I have 2 of those rain barrels.
Oh, congratulations.
One in my backyard, one in my front. They're not hooked up yet, but
Yeah.
they will be. So thank you for
You're
all
welcome.
that.
And thank you for the keychains.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Now we have Kramer Elementary update with Mr. Mers.
Good evening. Thanks for having me this evening. It's funny, when I put these presentations together, I'm never sure what to put together. I have a first grade teacher east side of Columbus that's visiting the next 2 days. She's finishing up her principal's license, has a relative that teaches at Kramer, and she needed to do internship for 2 days. So she picked a school district different than hers. She came to Kramer, she went to Miami, and walking around with her today and talking about Kramer and showing off Kramer, it just reminded me, we're gonna hit the highlights of some of the great things happening, but just everybody working together and collaborating and planning, and the trust in the building is great. So we're gonna hit some of the highlights, but it was fun. You don't think about it when you're in it day to day, like what is happening, what's going on. But sharing that today with this teacher and showcasing different things we're doing at Talawanda was a good way to get the day started, and just reminded me, you know, I got this presentation tonight and just hitting some of the highlights. So the entire staff's doing amazing things at Kramer, and we'll go ahead and get started and hit what we're doing this year. Let's see here. A lot of things focusing on those PLCs. So working with our grade level chairs, Mrs. Gregg and our teaching and learning team, through district building grade level meetings, we were able to look at fresh data, the trends, and design instruction to meet everyone's needs. Maybe, here we go. Always looking at our TSD vision and mission, you know, partnership with the community. Our mission is to educate and prepare our students for a rapidly changing world by instilling critical thinking skills, a global perspective, and respect for our core values. And, you know, our vision, educating and preparing students for life. We have high expectations. Respectful relationships will be fostered to support students, staff, and families. Through current programs, research-based practices, and authentic family involvement, students, staff, and families will build and grow resiliency and positive mindset. We'll foster a culture that promotes respect, instills responsibility to uphold our core values, enables students and adults to speak up against inequity, discrimination, and racism, helping people find their voice. One of the things I go over at the start of the year is PLC 101. I've shared this with you before. I like to keep things simple. We're looking at three big ideas and focusing on 5 things. So we have a focus on learning, we have a collaborative culture and collective responsibility, results orientation. So what are we trying to do at Kramer? Show student growth in all. It will look different from student to student. Some students will show extreme growth. Some students will be showing small growth, but as long as we're growing and moving forward, we're working in the right direction. We focus on 5 things: strategic thinking, PLC, so it's learning for all, looking at our SMART goals, what are we trying to do, how are we gonna get them there? We have a process where we're working as a team. Not only can we do that at the building level, we can do that at the district level, and then putting interventions in place. How are we gonna accomplish it? We're looking at fresh data. This makes a huge difference as we're moving through our SAP meetings, meeting with teachers and intervention staff in the morning. So we're looking at the fresh data. What we are doing, is it making a difference? Did it work? Why are we doing what we're doing? Are we doing it just for, it's something that we've always done in the past, or is there a purpose behind what we are doing? PLCs are not a meeting, it's just how we do business. So we're sitting down, we're looking, sharing, and collaborating. We're asking 4 critical questions. What's the learning target? I went into it was a 5th grade science classroom today. They were sharing their learning target with us. It was kind of fun to hear that. How do you know the students know it? So teachers having those conversations and those questions, how do you know that they do know it? What do you do when they accomplish it? How can we push them forward? How can we move them forward? And what do you do if they don't accomplish it? So seeing some of those small groups, using our bookworms curriculum, some of the DI time in order to work with kids, reteach areas if we need to. So looking how to push kids forwards, also finding ways to reteach things if they're not moving forward. Our grade level chairs are doing an amazing job organizing this. We are meeting monthly. We have a meeting, our next one's next Tuesday, and our grade level chairs. So kindergarten, Miss Bukite, first grade, Miss Cotto, Miss Cheney in second grade, Mrs. Cool and Mrs. Rucker shared in third grade. Miss Hamilton covers fourth grade, and then Mrs. Reedy and Mrs. Bowling cover fifth grade. They will meet. We also have several other teachers that will join in with us. We have a first grade teacher. She's also working on her principal's license, so part of her internship is coming. So we're able to sit down, we're able to talk. We're planning for next year. We are talking about Mrs. Chenoweth's book, Anxious Generation, that a large number of us have been reading, and just making some plans. So it's a great group of people that we can meet and plan, and then they can take it back to their grade levels and talk to their team. I just kind of covered this. So we're meeting monthly, discuss what they're seeing in their classrooms, problem solving. Title joins us, PE joins us. We're looking at what's happening in the building, in the classroom, really working through this new ELA curriculum and the needs from the building. It's an open discussion. Any ideas can be shared, and we're just learning from one another. And as I said, they go back to their grade levels and they talk, they share, and then they can bring new subjects if needed for the next month or make plans on stuff that we've talked about. One of the big things that we do at Kramer is we have our Monday morning meeting. It's kind of a triage of the upcoming week, what happened the week before. It's myself, our social worker, Chelsea Pike, our counselor, Robin Durham, and then our primary health solutions liaison comes in and meets with us and talks with us. Officer Sikora, our SRO, will come in and talk, so that is occurring every Monday morning. We get started around 8:45. We're focusing on the students. It could be academics, it could be behavior needs, it could be attendance, it could be parents are reaching out to us that they need help. Sometimes there are things that we can do with our group inside, and we can take care of things, reach out to outside providers, reach out to families. Sometimes we need to go to the teachers and see them to get them involved. This kind of leads to some of our SAP meetings that we have throughout the year and the information that we share with that. Our counselor, Robin Durham, is new this year to Kramer. She worked at a high school before. And then she came to an elementary level. She is amazing. She jumped in with both feet that first week, and she had a real welcome introduction to Kramer, and I think her eyes opened up a little bit. She works closely with Mrs. Pike, our social worker. They work together daily. They're working with students. They're all working on multiple projects together. They can provide individual counseling if needed. They can do group counseling if needed. Mrs. Durham will go in and provide SEL lessons school-wide in the classrooms. Those second step lessons could look different. If there is bullying issues going on to a class, maybe she's talking about bullying with the second step lessons. Maybe there's some test prep stuff that she's doing. So she's able to talk to the teachers and look at the second step resources we have and present that information to those classrooms. She organizes small groups. She runs small lunch groups and lunch bunches. Her office is a mess every afternoon between 11 o'clock and about 1:30, and she does a real good job cleaning up afterwards because other people are coming in. But she is busy and working with kiddos all the time. Our social worker, Chelsea Pike, again, working closely with Mrs. Durham. I can't say it enough. They are a great combo together. She's finding resources for our family, beds, housing. She can help with gas, rent, clothing, counseling, and so much more. She leads our holiday drive for families that need assistance over the holiday season. Over 200 families benefited from holiday meals and holiday gifts this past year. She coordinates our dental van services and works with Primary Health Solutions. Ms. Pike is mental health professional who uses zones of regulation and meets with students to provide counseling so she can work with individual students and small groups of students. She also has a graduate social work intern who comes in twice a week. She supervises the intern, puts some small groups with them together, and just works with her each and every week. Our SRO, Officer Shelley Sikora, keeping our schools safe and secure on a daily basis. She helps with the traffic control before and after school. She's always moving through the school, checking the doors, checking the lunchroom, checking the playground, meeting with visitors as they come in. She's worked in the city for 20 plus years, so she has built these relationships with these families. So families coming in know Shelley. They feel comfortable talking to her, and sometimes they'll come in and say, hey, we need to talk to you. We have something going on. They can go to an office, sit down and talk. She'll give kids breaks throughout the day. She'll color with them. She'll walk around school. She'll talk to them. She'll mentor them. And she has become a friendly face at Kramer, but also out in the community. There have been some calls where Officer Sikora was requested to go to check in on a family because they felt comfortable working with her. So that connection with Chief Jones, Officer Sikora, and the Oxford Police Department and the kiddos at Kramer has been amazing. Our office staff, I was bragging on them to Kate, who is down here visiting today. They triage a lot of things before they make it back. We've got our small groups. We've got our kids that we're working with. They are the face of Kramer. They're able to meet and greet people as they're coming in. And they each have individual kids that like to check in with them. They might need a break. They might need a 5 or 10 minute break out of the classroom. They could color with them. They could play a game with them. Uno is a popular thing to play. It's an opportunity for them to talk. Sometimes they have snacks for kids that get hangry. Some of our kids just want to spend that time as they earn rewards and stuff to check in with the office crew. And they do a great job of talking to them, getting people calmed down, both adults and kiddos and staff members, and just take care of everybody as they're coming in and out of Kramer. Our teaching and learning crew, I could not do it without Mrs. Gregg, Mrs. Chenoweth, and Mrs. Slager. We have our new bookworms curriculum. They are working with the Kramer staff all the time. Mrs. Chenoweth is at Kramer. I can always pop up and see her. I know I have an opportunity on Tuesdays, and I'm going to carve out 15 to 20 minutes to learn something new, get some feedback, and just hear what she has to say. She's always sharing information with us. Mrs. Slager is working with our grade level chairs, working with the teachers with the bookworms curriculum, and she's also taking care of all the ESL requirements. So she's got a great team that she's working with. She's extremely busy, but a great person to pick her brain. I was able to sit with Mrs. Gregg and Mrs. Slager and Alexis, our bookworms person, yesterday, and just learn a few new things as we progress through this new curriculum. Mrs. Gregg constantly providing updates. She's meeting with teachers, and we'll sit down and listen to them. And she hears the good, she hears the bad, and she's a great person to problem solve with and just leading us with our curriculum. Some of the outside support we have at Kramer, we have Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They're there every Monday. We also have a lunch bunch crew that comes in. So we probably have 7 to 8 bigs that will come in. They'll eat lunch with the kiddos during their lunchtime. Primary Health Solutions is our mental health support. We have somebody 5 days a week. We had a waiting list, so now we also have somebody on Wednesdays helping our kiddos out. Our backpack program was there today, dropping off backpack food for our students so that they have those over the weekend. Our Oxford Lane Library, they come to our breakfast club. Our breakfast club's still in the afternoon. Breakfast club will go back to the mornings next year. But Akio from the Oxford Lane Library comes in. We couldn't do it without Amy Masechko and her team of interns that come in. So, and we have a large number of teacher volunteers, staff volunteers that stay after school to work with our breakfast club. And then this year, we've expanded. Dr. Sarah Watt and her special ed students are working with our third graders. We have about 30, I'm guessing 30 to 35 third graders that she's coming in with. They're working some targeted instruction that they're doing with the kiddos. It is mass chaos every Tuesday and Thursday from about 1 o'clock until 2:30. Lots of college kids, lots of students moving everywhere, but there's some great things happening. So I can't thank Dr. Watt enough for bringing those students in and working with our third grade students. That's our breakfast club. I kind of hit the highlights of that with Mrs. Masechko and Akio from the Lane Library. Summary, we need to continue to focus on the basics and look at the data that we have. We continue to make progress and close the gaps. We need to continue to have our data meetings and analysis and just looking at that fresh data. We have a lot of trust in the building, and staff will talk and share with one another. It is not odd for someone to say, hey, I have a problem with a 5th grade student, and that kindergarten teacher that had them back when they were 6 years old will say, hey, this worked with me, or they'll touch base with that teacher. We still have work to do, but we continue to grow each and every day. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you and your staff are doing. It sounds like you've got a lot of community support, too, a lot of extra supports there.
Lucky.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, Ms. Gregory with the FCCLA presentation.
Sorry, just sat too long. Get my knee working again.
I hear you.
Hello, I am Sharon Gregory, if you don't know who I am. This is my group. You can stand now, you can come up. I teach FCS here, Family and Consumer Sciences. This year we are very heavy in culinary, so I have 3 baking and pastry arts classes, a cuisine class, leadership and mentorship class, and a basic foods class. So we are very busy in our classroom, along with all the other stuff we do in our community. I know that some of you have been warned that I might shed some tears. This is my last board presentation, as I am retiring, 35 years. I am a product of Talawanda, graduated from here in '86. I was here in the '90s, came back when the building opened, and been here ever since. So I'd like to share, they're going to tell them, they're going to introduce themselves and tell them a little bit. We made it short. I didn't do a big presentation. And then we have some gifts that they're going to bring up to you. We've been doing chocolate in our baking and pastry arts classes. So when I say I have 3 classes, I have 25, 33, and 30 in each of those baking and pastry arts classes. So I have a lot. So they did chocolates and some macarons today. They made some of those very first time, and I was so impressed in my 35 years of teaching. They did awesome, and if no one knows how difficult those can be, they are. So they're going to share a little about them and that stuff, and then they're going to bring you guys some gifts, and while they're doing that, I'm just going to share a little bit about what we've been doing. So,
hey y'all, I'm Peyton Cole. I'm a chapter board member. Tonight, I would like to tell you 2 things that I like about FCS and FCCLA. So for FCS, they include learning new recipes that I get to bring home with my family and being a peer helper in adaptive classes. And for FCCLA, public speaking and competing has helped me to give confidence, and these have helped me in many other classes and clubs that I am in, and it has given me the opportunity to present with my best friend, Sienna.
Hello, my name is Taylor Gregory, and I am the vice president of our chapter. I am a senior this year. I have been involved in FCCLA for 6 years now. 2 things I love about FCCLA are learning life skills and getting the opportunity to present. And the other 2 things I like about FCS classes are learning basic life skills in the kitchen and basic fashion and interior design elements.
Hello guys, my name is Sienna Weitzel and I am our chapter secretary, and I have been involved in FCCLA for 3 years now. And I am also going to share 2 things I love about, first, FCCLA. I love improving my public speaking because that's what I would like to do with my career in the future. So with my advisor, Mrs. Gregory, she's helped me so much, and I just appreciate her a lot and don't want to make her cry. So anyways, And I also love competing at national levels and traveling with all of my friends here. And it's just a lot of fun. And then the two things that I love about our FCS classes is learning life skills that I will use in my future, and also just building more friendships with people that I've never met before and just meeting new people. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Bailey Reed and I'm the president of our FCCLA chapter. I've been doing FCS classes for 3 years now. And two things that I love about FCCLA is the experience of competing and traveling with friends and gaining the courage to speak in front of others. And two things about FCS classes is learning how to fully understand recipes. Also with that, I had a chance to take an adaptive class, and with that, seeing their smile with doing the activities we do in those classes are absolutely everything to me.
Hello, my name is Bree Reed, and I serve as a Vice President of Public Relations for our chapter, and I've been in FCS classes for almost 2 years. And my two favorite things about FCCLA is how competition has brought me to open up more and meeting new people while traveling. My two favorite things about FCS classes has taught me to learn a lot, and I've learned how to hand sew and fashion interior design. And I also love having an amazing advisor that teaches us a lot.
I'm Colin Alterman. I'm the treasurer of our chapter. I enjoy learning new recipes in our class and going on competitions and stuff.
Hi, my name is Olivia Nyman, and I'm also a senior this year. I've been a member of FCCLA for 3 years now, and I'm our chapter's vice president of membership. Two things that I like about FCS classes are that I get to learn life skills that I get to use for the rest of my life, like baking, which I'm in right now. And I also enjoy getting to bake with my peers and work as a team. Two things I've enjoyed about FCCLA are that it has improved my self-confidence, especially with public speaking, which I never thought would ever happen. And I also love being able to be involved with so many different service activities all year round and getting to connect with the community.
See, I've done really well. I haven't cried yet. Almost. We're going to dinner after this, so that might be it. They are going to share with you our first semester newsletter. It's 18 pages, just be prepared. We do a lot in the community. I mean, we did so this semester alone, we went to the senior center, did our last senior center event. I thought the seniors were gonna kidnap us because they didn't want us to stop coming. They want to make sure that I come and volunteer so they can come next year. So we had that. We have our blood drive tomorrow, our second blood drive. We have our talent show next week that we host. So we are still busy. We found out Tuesday, everyone that competed last Saturday at our regional competition, we had a gold and 2 silvers. They all qualified for state, so we go to state at the end of April. And we already know that we have a team going to national in Florida and Orlando. So technically my retirement date's not until July 31st because I'm gonna take them to Orlando. So it's a great honor to do that. Besides all we are not just I know we're giving you baked goods, but a lot of times we just say, oh, it's just cooking. Today was a perfect example. Mrs. Gregory, how much is 4 ounces? Well, let's do the math. Math? Yeah. So we had math class today. You know, I said, so how many ounces are in a cup? They knew that. So now you can figure out how many 4 ounces are. So they're always talking about that. We do a lot with sanitation. I'm very OCD about that, the phones, but then I always turn it around for life skills for them. You go to a restaurant, do you want someone playing with their phone back in the kitchen, and then you eating the food? And they're like, oh no. So things like that is always a good thing to bring up. They are interviewing for me for a new job to replace me. Next week they start interviews, so that's a good thing. Oh. And so it is going to carry on. We do the Veterans Day. Very proud that we have done the Veterans Wall and the First Responders Wall here at the high school. Those are two things that are huge for me as I leave my career here at Talawanda. But we are going to share the newsletter with you. If anyone else would like a copy, we can put it online, or I have some copies with myself. So as you see, there's all kinds of pictures of things we do. We do the trunk or treat. We, so far this year in 2024-25, we have accumulated 18,000 hours of work-based learning in my class. They cater. They catered the whole meal for the veterans. We cater when we go there. Those are all work-based learning. These kids are learning and recording. We've given opportunities for over 800 hours of community service so far, first semester. That doesn't count everything else this semester. So we do a lot of things. And each of my classes I started a couple years ago, each of my classes is in charge of a service project. So they lead, they prepare it, they clean up, they do it all. So it's great. When I go out on career mentorship visits, that's one of the things that I hear from people in the community and around, that the new generation doesn't know. If they hand them a project to do, a lot of times they don't know how to do it. These kids will, because they do it as a class, so they know those skills. We have 11 different sites for my career mentorship class this year. I have a partnership with McCullough Hyde that we have 6 kids up there seeing all kinds of things, from operating to babies being born to everything in between. So I'm very proud of my kids and very proud of my program. So thank you. And I made it, see?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gregory. Thank you for all of your time at THS. You, I think, started when I was in high school, maybe.
Thank you.
But you are so loved. Thank you very much. And you're kind of making me tear up, so.
We would really love it if girls and gentlemen stay up there.
wanna
We'd
take a
really like
picture?
a picture with the board and Mrs. Gregory and her group. 35 years, that's a long time of service here.
Family's motto, sorry, I want you all to know my family's motto is, if it's not chocolate, it's not worth it. So, thank you. All right. First reading of policies. Mr. Malone is not here this evening, but all of the policies that have come through in this most recent, excuse me, offering are attached on the agenda for your review. Most of them are revisions with a few new ones relative to some new legislation at the state level. So next meeting, April meeting, we'll have the second reading, and at that point, if there are questions, we can address them. Board members, if you have questions about specific policies before that meeting, please send those to Mr. Malone, and he will follow up with that. All right, welcome to visitors and public participation. As always, just remember, we limit to 3 minutes each, 30 minutes total. And I will have a timer. I'll give you a gentle reminder when you're getting down to about 15 seconds. Please address the board with your remarks. This is our turn to listen. And you can bring up, obviously, any issues or information related to the business of the district or the board. So So thank you. Let me get my timer ready here. And our first is Kalindi Webb.
Am I good? Good evening. I am Kalindi Webb, a 1984 Talawanda grad, and currently I teach English and also night school here at the high school. I'm speaking to just two of the ways that we provide really very rich and varied educational experiences for students at Talawanda High School. Talawanda is family. Families aim to do what's best for kids. Therefore, our education is not one size fits all. Night school is daily from 3:30 to 5:15 and provides non-traditional approaches for kids who need extra support with academics, attendance, or behavior. This is an arm of the alternative education program at Talawanda, as well as our SAP, Student Assistance Program. In its third year now, to date, night school has had a significant impact on students being able to graduate, sometimes early, or transition back to the regular classroom. I also teach College Credit Plus English, dual credit English here, an in-house pathway for students to earn college credit, also part of our not a one-size-fits-all school. The course I teach is a very rigorous college-level composition course, and it gives kids really the best of both worlds. We know our kids better than a college professor knows our kids, but also now we have Miami as well as Cincinnati State advisors who come here regularly to check in with students. We have lots of CCP offerings at Talawanda besides English. We have math, we have IT, we have ag, we have several social studies options. But my English 4 CCP alone, now in its 7th year, has yielded over 720 free credits for students who will attend any public school in Ohio and almost any private institution in Ohio accepts those credits. And we give priority to students who are first generation in their families to go to college. I'm very proud and honored to be part of both night school and CCP as ways that this Talawanda family provides what's best for all kinds of kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Canese, and I hope I said your last name right, did I?
You did great. I am Chris Canese. I'm an intervention specialist here at Talawanda High School. As an individual who collaborates with parents in raising children, I always try to remember what it was like to be young, or younger, I guess I should say, in present company. Children really live in the day-to-day, and they're always postponing everything until tomorrow instead of preparing. I couldn't think of a better place to be in the day-to-day than at Talawanda High School. The opportunities we have here to be seen and heard and listen and learn are really wonderful. It can kind of sound lofty, but it's honestly the best kind of mundane. I take pride in seeing the good work we do here every day, seeing students receive a hot breakfast and a good lunch. I rest assured that we do it affordably so that none of the children have to be hungry. For many students, being present here is a victory, not just in body, but in mind. One question I regularly ask students who appear to be struggling is, how did you sleep last night? Inevitably, the answer is not enough. oftentimes they can't fully comprehend the circumstances that led to this. They don't really control their lives. They are dependent upon their guardians, their parents, and us. It's a delicate balance between empathy and a necessity to communicate to students that they need to make decisions that will lead them to success. We give them every opportunity to succeed here, and that success, as Kalindy Webb kind of just described, can take many forms. We have our foundations in providing for students in the area of their most basic needs, but we really want them to rise above and attain excellence. It's a privilege to work with students as they negotiate life and their place in it. It's not always easy, and students so often say that they will never use the skills we teach. But it's part of our job to broaden their perspectives.
15 seconds.
I think what really brought me to this speech today was that people say we're glorified babysitters. I would counter that it's glorious to care for children. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Maddox.
Hello. I am currently an intervention specialist at Marshall. I started working at Stewart Junior High in the fall of 1985. The state of Ohio says I am completing my 34th year officially. I have seen many, many programs and initiatives come and go over the years. I had the opportunity to work with many amazing people. I didn't always agree with the decisions and directives, but I have had many opportunities to share my perspectives. When Jason Mers arrived at Kramer, I was given many more opportunities to learn and grow as a teacher. I had worked with several excellent and supportive principals, but this was an amazing and extraordinary opportunity for me. Around the same time, I was also given the privilege and honor of being the TEA president. I started at Marshall in the fall of 2020. It was very difficult for me to leave somewhere that felt like home. That year, we all started the year remotely, but eventually I returned to in-person teaching once vaccinations were available. When I first sat in my Marshall classroom at the end of the day, I waited for the kids to leave before I went to my car. I sat waiting for the sounds of students departing. I never heard those sounds. It took me days to figure out when everyone was leaving. The reason for this almost silent departure is PACS. Expectations are taught, explained, demonstrated every year, and as needed for all grade levels. Students take pride in getting recognized as being PACS leaders. Most regret causing spleens, and they take pride in earning toodles. Chad Hinton and all the Marshall staff created a family for all staff and students. Last year, Stephanie Jones arrived, and I was given the chance to see what being supported by your principal really means. We had been working on building a building-wide mentorship program, but when Stephanie arrived, family groups took off. Almost all adult staff have a family group. When it is family group time, students reshuffle all over the building. New students are quickly assigned to a family group, and new staff members assume family groups from staff that have retired or resigned. Each month, the committee designs and shares the lesson plan. We all have the same plan and activities, but each family makes it their own. This gives students more people in the building they know and connect with besides their teacher and current classmates. We have family secret handshakes or signals we use when passing each other in the hall. Sometimes I forget why someone is wiggling their pointer finger at me, but I do have to admit
15 seconds.
that there have been times when the thought of having one more thing added to my day is not a positive thought. But when my family member gives me our family wave, smiles at me passing in the hallway, or drops in on a conference night, it makes the extra work extra worthwhile. PACs and family groups are part of why Marshall is a family, but the main reason is the people. Marshall is truly a family.
Excellent. Thank you, and congratulations on your retirement as well. And thank you for your service. Scotty King.
Scotty King, Dartown. I'm very concerned to hear that Talawanda's used two different terms interchangeably, in-school suspension and in-school assignment. Through email communication with Edward Throw, it's been made clear that both forms of discipline are used interchangeably, but with no difference between them. However, upon contacting a representative for the State of Ohio Board of Education, I discovered there's a striking difference. According to the EMIS manual for documentation, one form is a discipline, ISS, to be reported to the state, while ISA is not. Additionally, a student can only have 10 days of ISS before they're expelled. Yet I know of one student who had 30 consecutive days on ISA and was never expelled to appease their parents. Shocking, right? Our ISS numbers have dropped since the creation of ISA. For example, 21-22 year, 72 ISS days reported. 22-23, 8 ISS days reported. ISA days reported, 398. Big difference there. 23-24, 28 ISS days reported. ISA not reported, 163 days. So why would Talawanda start using the term that isn't recognized by the state and drastically lowers the number of in-school suspension reported each year? I was told that too many ISS days per school means that the principal or admin will have to attend training, complete corrective action plans to address the high numbers of ISS. Using ISA means less work for admins. You can keep kids longer than 10 days so they don't get expelled, like they should if they're there. So my guess is that it's the same reasoning and math skills used to report cases of zero bullying in the district last year. The sad part is my understanding that a large majority of our admins know the secret and are okay with it. I hope the board's not. So I'm left to question the integrity of your staff and allowing this to go on in creating such new terms and non-reporting things for the state. Seems a little shady. So the board is aware now of the false reporting. My question to you is, are you going to ignore it or promote the lies or fix the problem like we should? So I had a different ending, but after hearing the speeches tonight, I'd like to say something. First off,
15 seconds.
First off, I think there needs to be some recognition to Tim Derrickson for all the work he's done for the last 3 years for the middle school, and it showed from the reporting from the middle school principal. There needs to be a little recognition there, a little shout out to him for he's done a phenomenal job. He did. The second thing I'm going to miss, but I hope the board has the blood drive is open to the public tomorrow. Not sure. But the third thing is, can I get the Wi-Fi password so that I can watch March Madness like some of your faculty is out here? Just giving you a heads up. Thank you.
Maria Sparks.
Good evening. I'm Maria Sparks. I'm at Marshall Elementary. I teach 3rd grade. Originally, I had signed up to just brag about what a wonderful, amazing, fun class I have. They are so enthusiastic. They come in ready to learn every day, and they actually act disappointed when I draw an end to a lesson. Dr. Howard, you met them this week. They are still talking about your 5 different ways of asking where the bathroom is. So we just have a lot of fun. But I did switch it to wanting to talk about our Right to Read week this week, because wow, they've just really blown me away this year. The theme this year was Down the Rabbit Hole, Adventure Through the Classics. And Mrs. French just transformed our building. She has these interactive art displays that all of the students helped with. And they're not just on the walls, they are coming off the walls. And she even announced that students should actually touch the art. We should get our books and sit down and read around the art. So it's been beautiful. Another highlight was the overwhelming support from our community. This is a great community to teach in. We had an incredible number of guest readers from local leaders, parents, community volunteers, district administrators, high school students. We had returning alumni, and they all took their time to come in and share their favorite classic literature with our students. And those visits just really reinforced to our young readers that that reading isn't just for school. Reading is for fun. It's a lifelong skill, and it connects us. Dr. Howard, I think you saw that with our students. They really connected with you and your love for reading, and then it just helps their enthusiasm for reading. And then also beyond reading, we also brought literature to life through the arts. Thanks to a grant from Butler Rural, we were able to host the Playhouse in the Park, and they brought a professional theater performance into our school. And the storytelling experience really, I think, just helped the kids see the magic of books come alive on stage, kind of like what you were talking about earlier with the Little Shop of Horrors. Another unique aspect of the week was the Oxford Health Coalition's Tea Party, where Amy Mashako introduced students to Adventure Bites, which was a really fun and engaging way for the students to kind of step outside their comfort zones and try new foods. And just like how reading expands our minds, this experience helps students expand their palates and their sense of adventure. And the excitement's going to continue tomorrow with our culminating building-wide book bash.
15 seconds.
Which was, I want to say the Oxford Lions Club helped with that one. There's going to be a celebration of reading where students can engage in other fun, partially through points that they've earned through family activities with books at home. There's so much more, but it's just been a great week for books and for kids and for learning and for enthusiasm, and I love how this district really embraces making learning fun and attainable for all students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, that is an amazing group of students. I do just want to clarify the 5 ways of asking for the bathroom. They were asking about different languages, and I told them, I know how to ask where's the bathroom in 5 different languages. But I could only understand the answer probably in 2. And another one maybe with a lot of pointing. So thank you everyone for participating. We're going to move on to the report of the treasurer. Before I do that, I want to clarify something. It's a practice that is typical for all school boards, and excuse me. And you've seen us do this in the past, but I want to clarify something. It's the use of what's called a consent agenda, and that's where we block items, right? The law allows for us to block items along certain parameters, minutes of prior meetings, bills for payment, contracts, personnel hiring, et cetera. It is also the case that whenever the president or the chair of the board announces a block, any board member can ask for an item to be removed from that block. And you've heard that happen in the past, that a board member said, wait a minute, could you pull that block out or that item out? So that's why sometimes you'll hear things like, tonight we are not blocking all of the minutes for approval because we have 4 different minutes, but not every board member was at all 4 of those meetings. So we're going to do a different kind of blocking for that. So for example, our first block here is the treasurer's report, item A, 4A, and 4B. 4A is approval of the minutes for the February 5th, 2025 Board Communication Policy Committee meeting, and the approval of the minutes for the March 12th, 2025 Board Communication Policy meeting. We're putting those 2 together because Dawn and I were the only board members who were at that meeting, at those 2 meetings. So I guess it's just, Dawn, could you move to approve those minutes?
Well, I remember I wasn't at the one. I was at
Right.
the end of it.
These are the other 2. These are the 2 that you were at.
Okay.
The first one,
okay, the first one and
the first one,
the
and then
third
second
one, kind
yes,
of. Okay,
right.
Gotcha. Yes, I will make a motion to approve that.
Thank you, and I will second that motion. Any discussion, questions?
These were 4A and 4B.
This is 4A and 4B, correct. Ms. Tefelsky, would you call the vote?
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Now we are going to do 4C, which is the March 12th, 2025 TEA-TCSA Board Communication Policy Meeting. I was the only board member at that one. So my understanding is we don't actually have to vote on that. We just accept the minutes from that meeting. And then finally, 4D is approval of minutes for the February 6th, 2025 meeting. Now, I wasn't at that meeting, but we will call the vote and I will abstain from that. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the February 6th, 2025 regular meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to block items for E through H. E is approval of gifts. F is approval of appropriation modifications. G is approval of then and now over 3,000. And H is approval of the financial report for February 2025. Do I have a motion to block items for E through H?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion? Ms. Tefelsky, would you please call the vote?
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Now we're going to block the next two items. Item 4I, approval of the agreement with the Moats Group for the high school turf project. And 4J, approval of contingency fund for that turf field replacement project. Do I have a motion to approve items 4I and J?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
I was just going to ask, is for I, is that, I'm assuming that's just the amount that, of the quote that they originally
Yes.
given us?
Yes, this is exactly what was.
I didn't pull my old stuff out,
Yeah.
so, okay.
It is to the T, what was presented.
Perfect.
Then with two alternates, three different funds will pay for the different items as far as the original quote and then the two alternates. But
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And then the contingency fund is
Just
kind
a
of
safeguard,
standard, yeah,
just a safeguard that if
anything-
anything unforeseen happens underneath when they remove the old, any soil remediation, any pipes, water pipes, this is just kind of giving us a small cushion that we will be paying the vendors, we would be paying those change orders, but instead of having to come to the board with each little item, we could just move forward.
And it's unlikely that we're going to hit that maximum limit that you've...
So I'm hoping to reach none.
No, well, that
Zero.
would be awesome. Let's aim for that.
We are.
Any other questions, discussion? Do I have a motion to accept items for I and 4J?
So moved.
I didn't hear who got that.
Oh, me.
Second?
Second.
All right. I didn't hear who got that either. I'm like, everything's happening in stereo for me tonight.
Who was the second? Okay, thank you.
Pick one.
Got it. Got it.
Ms. Tefelsky, would you please, any other question, discussions? Ms. Tefelsky, please call a vote.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. All right, item 4K, approval of the Paxos quote for the 2025-26 school year. Do I have a motion to approve that quote?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion?
Give a little explanation of what this is about.
This is the PACS that Ms. Maddox was talking about at the elementary. It's a system that teaches students how to self-regulate, move within the building, the expectations, and teach them. We will have it in all three elementaries, so we will be consistent.
Great, thank you.
So we've seen some really positive improvements in the two buildings that we're currently
Correct.
doing it in, so we're expanding it. to
Common
all three.
language too now. We also have a lot of kids that move from building to building. Now we will have common language.
Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Thank you. Item 4L, approval of the AVI systems quote. It's recommended that the board approve an AVI systems quote for interactive panels not to exceed $53,062.50. Do I have a motion to approve that quote?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion? So this, I understand this was already kind of built into the tech
Yes.
rotation?
You're going to be seeing a few more of this type of thing because this is the annual cycle when we are making those tech purchases, getting ready for the summer installation and gearing up for the next year.
And these are a newer generation of what we previously referred to as smart boards.
Or Clever Touches.
Or Clever Touches.
Clever Touches came after smart boards.
Okay, and now we're at AVI. Good to know. Any other questions? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes, thank you. All right, and now I believe you have your state funding presentation you'd like to offer.
Okay, so just as we did last month with our permanent improvement fund, I thought with the governor's biennium budget proposal, it was time to give a quick update on state funding. That second slide. This is only going to be talking about the general fund. What you see within our 5-year forecast, as the state does not support any of our other funds unless we apply for grants or work with the OFCC on construction projects. As I stated in the November forecast, we receive state funds and local funds to educate our children. Local funds include property taxes, school district income taxes, and other miscellaneous income such as Medicaid and interest income. But the bulk of this revenue is coming from our property taxes and our school district income taxes. The state revenue is from our monthly foundation payments and the rollback and homestead reimbursement from the state. This is reimbursing us for the 12.5% credits that homeowners receive on their annual property tax invoice. And as we can see from the chart, 76% of our children's education is funded by us, the local community, and 24% is funded from the state via the funding formula and rollback homestead reimbursement program.
Can I ask you quickly, because I think you've mentioned this before, that of the districts in Butler County, we have, is it the highest local community share?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so every other district in the county has a greater state share than we do.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
On the next slide. So when we talk about K through 12 fair school funding formula, Ohio's biennial budgets are developed through the political process of lawmaking, and the state funding formula is often a hotly contested component of the state budget, and the formula is subject to change every 2 years. The current funding formula in law is called the Fair School Funding Formula, or you may hear me call it the Fair School Funding Plan. So if you're looking at abbreviations, if you're looking at FSFF, FSFP, they're basically one and the same as far as the formula. We are in the 4th year utilizing this phase-in formula, with year 5 and 6 currently being debated by the House and the Senate. If the biennium budget is approved using the original 6-year phase-in, we would see in fiscal year 26 an 83% phase-in of the Fair School Funding Plan, and in fiscal year 27 it would be fully phased in at 100%. However, caveat to that, the base cost inputs will still utilize fiscal year 22 expenditure levels as the baseline, but the local capacity inputs will use fiscal year 24 data points. And we'll get more into that a little bit later. And as a refresher, all funding formulas developed by state law are with the understanding that it is a partnership between the state of Ohio, and each individual Board of Education. So when you hear us talking about state and/or local share percent, we are referring to this partnership. The local share is this local share, and I'm going to be honest, is a very complex algorithm that considers the ability each school district has to raise funds, property taxes, school district income taxes, for public education, and is measured generally by property wealth per pupil and income per pupil, both factors that vary from community to community. The formula ultimately uses the local factors for each school district, i.e. property wealth and income wealth, to determine the ability each district has to raise its share of the base cost per pupil. The more the state feels that you can raise, the less state support they will give us in the base aid. If we move on to the next slide, we can see the base cost inputs of the formula. To me, this is just very fascinating. So a group of people all got together. They determined how many teachers how many students we should have per teacher. So they wanted to determine it should be best to have 25 students per classroom in the high school. And actually, I don't know if that's right. It's very small printing, but you get the sense that they sit in a room and they determine how much instructional material should cost, whether it be $45 per pupil, how much should the maintenance facilities cost per pupil, $55 per pupil. And these are considered the baseline. And in the right, as I was discussing, you will see that the base cost example of when the Fair School Funding Formula was originally approved in the summer of '21, this is the base aid that the state will approve and dictates the student-teacher ratio, how much instructional materials, technology, extracurriculars that the state feels is important, and assigns a per-student allotment for each. In addition to this base cost funding, the Fair School Funding Formula also has categorical funding items that are targeted to specific programming, such as gifted identification, special education, English language learner, career tech, and economically disadvantaged student funding. As with our federal funding, these categorical items are restricted in nature and can only be spent on the programming for which the funding was received. The final component of state funding is derived when the state of Ohio pays a portion of the local tax bill for residents across the state of Ohio. So when we took a look at the forecast in prior years, there's a line, I think it's 1.050, that it would say rollback in homestead. A couple years ago, the state wanted credit for that, and so now it is deemed the state share percentage of property taxes. So they want it known that they are supporting the education through those rollback and homestead programs. The amount that the state pays to each public school district is recognized as a credit on each of our homeowners' tax bill if we receive one, and is generally 12.5% of the total tax bill that a homeowner would otherwise pay to the county auditor, who then would pass it on to the school districts, to the cities, the municipalities, the libraries. County auditor collects it all and then disperses it. Based on this funding formula, the state determines the best teacher to student ratio, which I've already described, and will only fund up to that amount. If the district deems it best to have a smaller class size, then that is 100% locally funded. If the TEA and TCSA union contracts have a higher salary schedule than the base cost model, the difference is 100% paid by the Board of Education and local community. And as a final note to this slide, in exchange for the funding received from the state, Ohio requires all of its public schools to meet certain standards and mandates to ensure a quality education for all of its Ohio students. Many of these mandates do not come with additional funding beyond what is provided by the state formula. These are often referred by us as unfunded mandates and are 100% locally funded. We go to the next slide. We will take a look at the data the state is using in calculating this local share, or in other words, the capacity to levy or raise money from the local community. The formula calculation is based on 60% assessed property valuation, 20% adjusted gross income of our community, and 20% is the federal median income. Using this formula and seeing our data that I pulled from our first collection of our March number 1 for this month, the property tax data is using the 3-year average of tax years 21, 22, and 23. But if tax year 23 had been lower than the average, then it would have been utilized instead. The income data is doing the same and using the 3-year average, or just tax year 2022 if it had been lower than the average. And the median income is only utilizing 2022 data. For enrollment data, the state will use the 3-year average of fiscal year 22, 23, and 24, or just fiscal year 24, which is higher and benefits the district the most, whichever is higher and benefits the district the most. So some data points we're using tax years, other data points we're using fiscal years, so there's a crossover there. On the bottom left-hand side, you're going to see the breakdown of the average base cost per student in Ohio for fiscal year 25. And based on the local capacity to generate revenue via property or income taxes, what the breakdown is financially, what our community pays versus the state. Base cost only, the state provides us with $1,117 per student. This does not include the categorical aid described previously, transportation, or the additional that is received for special education students. It is purely the baseline educational aid. Here is where the formula can get even more complicated. Talawanda is on the guarantee program, which means that we cannot receive less funding than we did in fiscal year 21. If you look at our foundation payments on ODE's website, you would see this as temporary transitional aid guarantee, and in this current fiscal year, it is $2.2 million. So if the guarantee went away, if they voted it out, we would instantly lose $2.2 million. On our final slide, we are seeing the state aid in graph form. I did this for the League of Women's Voters a couple years ago, and I thought it was it's still pretty consistent even now. And it shows how little we actually receive from the state in support of our educational endeavors since fiscal year 08. Our average annual growth rate through the state aid has been 0.17%, while our expenses have increased on average 3% annually. Our state share support has decreased from 26% to 13.7%, and I will add that if passed as the governor proposed, it will decrease again to 11%. So we will have gone from 26% to 11%. But our enrollment has remained relatively stable throughout the years. I will thank you for listening to me. I will be doing more of these as the months come along. But if you want more in-depth information on state aid, please come visit us this Monday at the community forum, because we will have more slides on finance. So, any questions for me?
More slides.
More slides, more data.
So what is the state capacity for, do we know what the state capacity is for Ross and for Edgewood?
I do not, but I can provide that on Monday night.
I think that'd be a good
Good comparison.
Yeah.
Is it accurate to say that with this property valuation, that the property that is occupied, owned by Miami University, does that get figured into this property valuation?
It does not as a general entirety, but based on them having a larger capacity of our land and people donating their property to Miami in their wills, estates, that is less of an area that we can collect taxes from. So it pushes more of the burden to the homeowners, the commercial properties, that sort of thing. So it's not calculated within, but it does force the pressure onto the rest of the community.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I think I've misstated that before. I thought that value was added in. I have also said, no, but part of the problem even without is that it's a lot of property that is not then available to be
correct
put on the tax roll.
Dr. Howard, there's also some inflation too. When you think about students renting out, and I'm not talking on Miami's properties, but outside, often those renters are charging more than what you would normally get. So that also increases the value of some of those properties when it really isn't. Does that make sense what I'm telling you on that?
It kind of does.
So it inflates what we have. So it looks like we are wealthier than what we are.
And there's going to be a lot more of that development, I will tell you.
Correct.
There is.
Correct. I know we've, Miami has talked, and the city's talked about some of their ideas for growing.
I think also one of the things that stands out to me is the, excuse me, the income. Again, we have a very large district with a tremendous variety or variance in income levels. And the state is pointing to a median income, not a mean.
Correct.
So they're not looking at the average. They're
Correct.
looking at where's the midpoint. So we've got,
Correct.
we can have a lot of high earners kind of overbalancing on that end of that median, which really disadvantages how then our lower income residents are figured into that. So I think it gives a false picture. What I'm saying is it gives a false picture.
A very false picture.
Of what our average income is.
And when they
across the
take a look at
district.
the data points as far as taking a look at what they feel the community can afford, I'm going to repeat, they are always updating those data points. Every single year, they are updating. If we have a property valuation update, a triennial update, they will then the following year utilize those increased valuations, but yet they want to use fiscal year 22 expenditure data. So what it costs for a teacher in fiscal year 22, what it costs to maintain the buildings in fiscal year 22. That's a wide gap. CPI index has been like 3.5% on average every year. It needs to be able to keep up with inflation, with, you know, either that or utilize the same data points and use the property valuations from 2022 and the income from 22. Make it make sense.
You're asking a lot.
I know.
So with the voucher program, how much, I don't know if you know this, but how much money are we providing for private schools now?
Okay, I can answer that.
Oh, good.
So base cost, we are going to receive $1,117 per student. That same student going to a private school receiving a voucher is going to receive that full $8,242. There's no state local share cut percentage on that. They're receiving the full base aid.
And that comes from the state?
That comes from the state.
And there's, as opposed to a couple of years ago, there was no means testing for any of this either. It's unlimited amount of money a family could could have to also get a voucher, which is a change.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I think there is an upper limit to it, but it's a ridiculous upper limit.
No.
I don't think there's any.
No matter how much you make, you can
There
get
used to be a
something.
limit.
You can get something.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And so my next question is, how much in total? Do we know that number that goes to these private schools?
I can take the figures that I sent you a couple weeks ago and math, and I'll send that to you, and then I'll also present on it on Monday night.
Because I hear the number is like $1 billion.
But not from us,
Overall,
but not from
Not
us.
from us. No, no, that's going to the state. Going
Oh,
to
I'm
private
sorry.
Correct.
It goes to the
Correct.
private
Oh.
schools.
It's $1 billion the state is putting towards the voucher system. Correct.
And they would like to increase it another close to $1 billion next year.
Yeah, I
I
hope people,
understand.
I hope people show up Monday night to get more information and to find out ways to contact their legislatures about doing this, because I think Ohio is on a path to destroy public education. As Mr. Wyatt mentioned, there's no more means testing for vouchers. And if you look at the data, 19% of voucher money goes to families that are 450% above the poverty limit. So these are families making over $150,000 collecting voucher money. Those families collect $184 million from the state, whose budget just happens to say we have to cut $100 million from public schools and about $90 million from special ed things. Gee, that's $190 million, awful close to the $184 going to the rich. But we have to cut the public schools because it's unsustainable. And all it is taking money away from public school students, which are the students that don't have a choice to go somewhere else, because that $8,000 doesn't cover the entire tuition at these places. So there's still places. School choice is about those schools have a choice. It's not about parents have a choice. I went to St. X High School in Cincinnati. They had the choice of who to take. Not everybody could go there. School choice is not about parental choice. The schools have the ultimate choice, and they are not taking the students who don't fit what they want. Just listen to what Senator Lang said about a week ago about special ed students costing $50,000, but students from loving families are cheaper. Think of what he just implied. And they want to leave public schools to the people that can't afford to go anywhere and take money from our children and give it to the rich. You know, people need to come Monday. They need to find out how to address their legislatures, and they need to be part of protecting public schools in our state, because it's not going in a good direction at all.
And Sean, I just
Sorry, I'll
have
get
one
off my
question from what
soapbox.
you said, just so I have clarification. You said, was it 2008 that 26% of our budget was the state? So it's gone from 26 to 11%.
13.
And I assume across the state of Ohio, it may not be that drastic, but it's the same de-investment into the school.
Correct.
Right. It's the exact same plan that they did for higher education 30 years ago here, and in other states as well. 30 years ago, Miami, Ohio State, every state school had over 0.5% of their budget supplied by the state. Do you know what it is now? About 6%. It's basically private schools. All of our colleges here are basically private schools. The difference is we don't have people like me going out raising money for our school district. We don't have foundations, and we can't charge our students and rely on tuition.
Correct.
So it is a deliberate attempt of the state of Ohio, the governor, our legislators, to de-invest from public education, both K through 12 and also at higher education. And that's a major problem for the future of this state.
And it's not just the governor's proposed budget that's being debated right now. There's other Senate bills that are out there that I am extremely concerned about. I believe it's Senate Bill 66 that wants to tackle the 20 mil floor, which we are on, to include school district income tax within the calculations of that. And by my rough calculations, I am currently working with the county auditor to try to figure out the formulation of that. But my rough estimates is that we could lose $3 million if that is passed.
Yeah, and our local taxpayers need to understand that 76% that we're talking about in 10 years, we're talking about 90% of our budget's going to be coming from you, from every one of you.
Correct.
And that's what we're facing.
Well, and
That's a
really,
problem.
another way to think about this, those tax dollars that they're collecting from us, we're turning around and giving to private schools.
Yes. We're subsidizing.
We're subsidizing probably
folks
private
to
schools.
send their kids to, yeah.
Every time we pay into the state, just remember some of your money is going to help those private schools.
And they're not judged on testing. They're not judged on anything. Not one thing that we're judged on. Not one. That's an outrage.
And they have a selection process. So whereas we will provide an education for everyone, they will select who they will do. So it is, as Mr. Mead said, it's not open, really.
All right, thank you. Again, anyone who's interested, Monday at 6 o'clock, this presentation with a little bit more information. and
Oh,
then-
this is.
More slides.
More slides, but it's a group effort, so there's more, there's information on how to contact the legislators. It's going to be a well-rounded program.
Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for co-sponsoring this forum. They've been really proactive about responding to challenges to public education.
And you'll provide the rest of the board members with the slides, copies of the slides.
For Monday night?
For Monday.
Yeah, it's when they're finalized.
All right, great.
Still tweaking.
All right, I understand that.
All right, do you have any informational items? You do not. All right, report of the superintendent. The recommendation is to block items A through E. Do we want to pull anything out of that?
I just had a question about A4.
Do you want to pull it, or do you just want to have the conversation?
I guess pull it, because it kind of depends on the answer to the question.
All right, so we're going to block item 5A, 1, acceptance of resignation of Director of Human Resources. 5A2, acceptance of resignation of middle school math teacher for retirement purposes. 5A3, acceptance of administrative contract for TMS assistant principal. We're pulling 5A4. That's the one you said you wanted out? Okay. We're also then blocking 5B, 1, acceptance of resignation of classified personnel. B2, 1, 2, 3 are all acceptance of resignations. B4, approval of limited employment classified contracts. B5, approval of limited employment classified contracts. B6, approval of substitute classified staff employees. C1, and again, these are all 5. So 5C1, approval of an amended contract. 5D, approval of the updated annual special education model policy and procedures resolution. And 5E, approval of the legends and lore marker at the board administrative offices. So do I have a motion to accept items 5A, 1, 2, and 3, 5B, 1 through 6, 5C, 1, and 5D, and 5E?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion or questions?
I was just going to say thank you, Shauna, for including the contract for the admin on here. Moving forward, I would really like to be able, those are kind of bigger contracts, so every time we have one, if we could get the contract on there. Just because I didn't even know who the person was until right before the agenda came out to the public, so that would be a good addition.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the roll.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. All right, 5A4 then, a 1-year limited employment contract to two individuals. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion or questions?
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Matt.
Matt.
Thank you.
My only question was for the guidance counselor, is that replacing one of the three current high school ones, or is that an additional fourth one?
It is an additional fourth one. I sent out an email about how we have a teacher that is retiring, and we're not replacing that teacher position, and we're converting that teacher position to a counselor. The counselors are required to do more data than ever, including the Prepared for Success and tracking kids after school. After they leave school, what are they doing? Military, work, college, vocational. So this is the reason why we are asking for, well, this counselor, we're applying for it. We have changed how we are doing our foreign language. We won't be doing foreign language at the middle school. We're moving foreign language up to the high school, which allows us to have our teachers provide, there's a foreign language that's just general to CCP, to online if needed to be, if we don't have enough students. This allows us to save time with travel. It also creates a situation that allows us to bring an agriculture class down, FFA, down to 8th grade. We have some lower numbers in high school, and we know we can fill that. So we will be adding the FFA agriculture class. I don't know what the name of the class will be. It's a Butler Tech satellite that would be down at the middle school.
Okay, so basically, this position is cost neutral.
It's cost
because
neutral,
of the things
correct.
you've done, and the administrative team has worked out the priorities of why this was needed and other moves are made.
That is exactly,
Okay.
so I want to explain it. It's bigger than just
Okay.
the one. Yes, correct.
Could the addition for the new requirement for the state, I mean, could that be handled by someone in a more clerical role that maybe wouldn't be so much money?
No, I mean, there's stuff that these counselors have to do that is counselor related for it. It is
As
just-
part of that requirement?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer it. Yes, yes. If it was easier, I would love to do what you're saying, to get like
Yeah.
a clerk or something that could easily do that, but no.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to justify it, because I was looking at the state numbers. It looked like we had almost a 10% drop in high school enrollment in the last 4 years. So adding another high school counselor, I think we've had 3 for, I don't know, since at least 1997.
I understand that, and most schools have seen a drop, not just ours, but I also will state you need to look at our scores and what we've been doing with our scores, and that takes personnel to continue that trend to move up. I mean, we're the highest that we've been.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you, Dr. Thoreau, for that explanation. Again, I appreciate that our administrators, the people who actually do these hiring, make these hiring decisions, are considering all of those factors
Absolutely.
to make those.
It is not just me. We are a team. We work together. We problem solve. We prioritize, because we can't get everything that we want.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Thank you. Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
No.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Before we go on to item 5F, I neglected to read what items 5D and E are. 5D is the Special Education Model Policy and Procedures Resolution, and then 5E is the approval of the Legends and Lore marker. So we approved that in that big block. All right, item 5F, recommended to approve the funding of the modified proposal for possible staffing additions. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion?
So this would all be new money, or new positions?
So yes, so remember when Mr. Mead had brought up the idea of what would we possibly want if we had the money for like $400,000. We brought forth some ideas to the board. Our leadership team had met. We met with our associations too to have a discussion about, what our priorities was. So that is the original proposal that you see in there. From that discussion, we also said we needed to make a decision by the March board meeting, because if we're going to add, we're going to need to hire. If we're not going to do that, that's fine. So with that, I was reading the board, and it's just an assumption that I didn't think that the board was, not that they weren't willing, but there's lots of concerns with the financing going on. There's lots of concerns going on with the state financing that are unknown. There's lots going on, as Board Member Wyatt said today, about the federal government possibly closing down the federal education department and what that looks like. So I understand while it looks good right now with our 5-year forecast, it can change today or tomorrow or in a week or whatever. So I created this idea of a modified. I went back, I had some conversations about what a modified proposal could be. So the cost would be for the modified that I'm asking for funding is the funding of 2 elementary title teachers, grade 4 and 5. We've talked about them. They would be split amongst the 3 buildings. They would provide high dosage tutoring, which is required by state law for those students who did not pass the ELA test with the 700. Now the score is 700. They will also work with other identified students that need help to boost that. We don't have this support in grades 4 and 5. We do have that in the other lower grade levels with our other title that we use some of our title funds from. So that would be a cost. The second cost would be a full-time psychologist or SAP coordinator at the middle school. I'm asking for that funding. You heard middle school come up today, and they have made some great changes, continue to work. They're adding an alternative program next year, which Mrs. Arnos, who's sitting in there, who has decided and chosen to go to do that. And I think that's very important to do. What we're lacking is we've piecemealed a psychologist into the middle school. We're lacking that psychologist to do the SAP, which is looking at student data, looking at the plans, helping with the plans, helping the teachers, helping the families, as well as the psychologist jobs that are normally done, from ETRs to special education to working with teachers. The reason why I listed a SAP coordinator or SAP coordinator, we currently right now have 1 psychologist position open, and that was a psychologist that left earlier in the year. We cannot find a candidate to fill that current open position. However, Butler County ESC has found a person, so we will have a person next year for that position. So that's why I'm asking for an OR. We would post it as a school psychologist. If we couldn't get a school psychologist, we'd go to Butler County ESC, try to find one. But if we couldn't, we might do a 1 year and then repost for a school psychologist the following year. There's less than 50 school psychologists that are listed in the state of Ohio that we can choose from, so there's not many. So those are the 2 costs. The additional information underneath it is, we just talked about the counselor, how that would be through the elimination of a position of a teacher that's retiring, so cost neutral. And we're also looking at adding an educational assistant at the middle school for the alternative program that I just talked to you about, and that would be paid through the attrition and retirements. When I do classified and certified, we keep track of how much the previous person was paid and how much the new person. It's a profit and loss that we do, and I will be able, I know, to be able to pay, because we don't pay our educational aides a ton of money, that we will be able to get that from those profit and loss cost savings. So those two will not cost any money. So no funding needed for that.
So what are the costs of the 2 elementary title teachers and then the full-time psychologist or SAP coordinator?
So the cost is going to vary, because if we get a teacher with experience that moves in there, it's going to cause a domino effect, right? So that teacher might be paid more, but then we would save on the teacher that we are hiring in, if that makes sense. So that's why you're going to see a range here. So the range that we had for the modified proposal would be between 80 and 130,000 for the 2 elementary teachers, 80 to 110,000 for the psychologists and staff, and it can vary depending on the levels. So the total cost would be between $160,000 and $230,000 for the add-ons, the 3.
So is this, I see the numbers on the agenda here. Are those the total compensation, like full burden numbers?
Yes, we tried to, include that. Yes.
So that's benefits, retirement, vacation, sick
Yes.
days, FMLA, maternity leave, potentially, okay.
Yes. That's why there's a range there, because it also could be a family plan, could be a single plan, or no plan at all for health.
I have to say, 2 months ago, I would have been all for this, but
I
with
understand.
the just so much uncertainty around the biennial budget right now, I'm just
I
really
understand.
concerned. But I also understand if we're gonna do these positions, we've got to start posting these positions.
Correct.
So I'm really of 2 minds. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, we need to hold off on this until we see how this state budget is gonna fall out. And
Have
there's
any-
another part of me that's saying we need to support our students and our staff. We need to do what's right, bringing back some of these positions.
And is there any timeline that the
June
state-
30th.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought
Yeah,
it
and
was
that's the problem. We
end of
won't know
June.
for sure until then.
And remember the July 10th deadline, so June 30th, July 10th, that is the deadline when staff teachers can move to another position from their district. So it becomes problematic because it's such a tight turnaround. But I understand the concerns, and that's why I came with a modified proposal.
Is
And
it,
we'll
so
respect-
two elementary title teachers?
Yes.
Is that like one for each building, or
No,
they're
because
gonna float?
it will be split. One will be split, usually is between Marshall and Bogan, and then one for Kramer. But we will look at the numbers to determine what the schedules are and how many needs there are. And again, we'll use the test data to drive that.
And that's also dependent on how many kids there are that need those, need
You
that service.
you're exactly correct.
And that is difficult or impossible to predict.
Well, we have MAP that gives us some indication of those of students. We have past history that gives us some indication, but the score has been raised. So now the proficient level of 700. So that's different than last year and previous years. So it is going to possibly increase.
I am too. I'm concerned about the state funding and where we're going to land there.
Yeah.
I understand the need to do it right away, so you could get people hired, but I don't feel comfortable, given all the changes in the economy that are coming. I would just as soon wait, see how it all plays out, and visit it again next year. But for right now, I don't feel comfortable doing it.
I agree with Chris.
This is why I like Butler Tax Board. On Butler Tax Board, we have about 136 days of cash on hand at the end of our 5-year forecast. And here at Talawanda, we're going to have over 200 and some days cash on hand. Yes, we might lose some money on the state budget. We might not. We might lose some money if the federal government gets more inefficient than it is, and we might not. But we have students with needs, educational needs, and our job is to meet them. And we are not sitting on the precipice of going broke. I believe we have money to invest in our children. 5 years down the road, we may say, oh, now we need to cut these 2 jobs. But for those 5 years, we will be able to serve 5 years' worth of students and improve their lives and improve their chances. We can be super extra cautious and feel like we need this huge amount of money saved up over 200 days worth, or we can do what I like doing on Butler Tech's board, which is invest in our students and build a program that is second to none. I think these reading teachers, which seems to be the skill that everything else depends on going on, can be extremely helpful in student success. And I know we've talked before about the need for an intervention person at the middle school. I worked at middle school, 32 years? You need 10 more intervention people at the middle school. But another one would be helpful. I think we can be too cautious and end up 5 years from now with 200 and some days of money and 5 years worth of students that we didn't provide with the services that we're capable of providing with them if we maybe had a little more courage. Just my 3 cents worth.
And I would say I'm very cautious about adding any more expenses. However, you're talking about 2 title teachers for elementary. To me, that's a good bang for the buck for what we're getting, because it's addressing some of the gaps that we have. And if we're going to continue the momentum, our test scores, how our district's going, I believe that is a wise investment. There are other things that could not be a wise investment. I think that is.
I do want to add one small statement, and it's not to dispute that the title reading teachers are needed. They are needed. The help at the middle school is needed. It is. My focus and statement is going to be on Mr. Mead's talking about investing in the Butler Tech students and the career tech. They are guaranteed their money. They are not part of this local and this state share. They are going to get, on average, $9,000 per student, and there will be no split. So there is a difference on that I just wanted to make clear, that they can be a little bit more bold and aggressive in their hirings and their pursuits, because they're not faced with a local and a state share percent. They are guaranteed to get that money, and more money is going and heading their way, whereas with the public, it's not. So I'm not disputing any of the needs within our classroom. I only wanted to add that little qualifier for career tech versus public education.
And I would agree, the state doesn't seem to want to destroy career tech education like it wants to destroy K-12 education. However, when I just look at days cash on hand,
I won't
it's hard
dispute
for
that.
me to think of, I'm leaving that on the table when I have students that will benefit. A $200 and some thousand investment will mean we have $31 million in the bank 5 years from now instead of 32.
I won't dispute that.
Yeah. I can live with that, and I would prefer to provide those students with those services. And like Dr. Thoreau said, if we want to move forward, it's either going to sink or swim right now. We can't put it off to after the state budget. We could consider it then for next year, but then next year we'll be talking about the things the state might do and the federal government might do, et cetera.
As I said, I'm not disputing that. I was just trying to give a little bit of
I appreciate that.
input on career tech and Butler Tech.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you all. Again, I really do appreciate all the perspectives of everyone sitting up here. Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Otto?
No.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
No.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Lucky you.
A very uneasy yes. All right, thank you all. Informational items, Dr. Thoreau.
Spring break is approaching someday. I'm glad it isn't this week because it's kind of awful weather. So March 31st, April 4th, we'll be on spring break. Remember, staff will not be available during this time. And then when we come back, the state achievement tests are upon us. It is a very stressful time for our staff and students. I'm asking families to have conversations with their students. They're ready. They'll do the best that they can. It's a one-day test, but we know we have some students that will stress themselves out to getting ill. Work with us, call us if you need to. It is a one-day assessment. And while it gives us some data, it doesn't give us the whole picture. And that will be the entire month of April. And of course, exams are part of that. AP exams are a part of it. MAP testing's a part of that going into May. The last 3 days of school in May are early release. THS exam schedule will be posted, as well as the Holly Hansel has already promoted the early days release in the Times. Our district calendars can always be found on our website, so if you need information, the next 2 years are there as well. And any official information is found on our Talawanda website, or you can contact the buildings or the district to do that. I want to give a special thank you to Representative Diane Mullins. She visited the high school, and board member Wyatt was a part of that visit. She toured the building. She's a youth pastor, and some of the students in our building they recognized her, so she made some nice connections. We opened by starting in the Perks, which is a coffee shop run by our students who have special ed needs, Jenny George's class, and they provided refreshments to those. Then she walked the building. She actually went into classroom and actually talked with students, which was really great in my opinion. She met teachers, and we came back, and then she sat with several different students. We had a variety of students, a student who was in an alternative program, a student that was going into vocational. We had a student that's at the top of her class. So we had different students, and she asked lots of questions. Our kids are amazing and promoted what they're learning, what they're doing, what they like, and they were honest about what they didn't like as well. And they also talked about great teachers that they had. In particular, Matt Lyken's name was brought up several times by several students as a favorite teacher. As she was leading, we did not have any conversations about finances. This was a total visit, get to know Talawanda. So I asked her if she would be willing to meet with us again, and she said yes. And originally she had asked us to schedule the end of April or May, but she just recently changed. She's coming April 4th, and she's going to meet with Shauna and myself. So she wants to learn about Talawanda, but also about school funding. So I really appreciate that she came to the table to meet with us. The state budget, as we've heard tonight, and bills are being proposed, is changing daily almost, it sounds like, feels like. We need people to reach out to our legislators. Our policies, I've never seen so many policies being brought up for review and revisions because it keeps changing. We actually pulled a policy about 2 or 3 days ago that we had on because it changed again by the state. I expect us to have more changes. Again, a reminder, Monday, the 24th, 6 p.m. here at the high school. Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you for board members Wyatt and Mead. We will be talking about school funding, Talawanda, advocacy, and how to lobby at the state level. We would love for as many people to come. That's it for me.
Thank you. All right, items from board members. I would like to thank Mr. Otto for stepping in and running the meeting last month, and sorry for my absence. I won't go into the details of what happens when you've got ice on your front porch. But, any other items from board members?
Go ahead, Dawn.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, so it was brought up this in-school assignment and in-school suspension. Was there a reason this was created, since they seem to be used interchangeably? I'm really confused by it.
We've had this for many years and prior to me even coming, but we also do lunch detentions, recess detentions, after-school detentions. So we have a mirage of different types of discipline for it. And we always try to, while we discipline students, we always try to give them ability to learn from what they're doing to do a restorative practice for it. So it is not falsification as what was mentioned. There is no falsification. We do track the information, and the information's in our public school works, and we follow code of conduct. So I don't know how else to answer the question, but we use multiple systems to discipline students and also to reward students. Positive reinforcements, certificates, PACs, PBIS, all of that too.
Would it make sense to have one or the other?
No.
Or, no, it
because
wouldn't?
it depends on the kids and it depends on the needs.
Okay.
So it depends on the discipline. That's like saying, let's get rid of lunch detentions. Let's get rid of recess detentions. Let's get rid of Saturday detention. We won't have any of those. We'll just have whatever. So it's based on the administrator's professional judgment. I don't get involved in that. The administrators make a decision based upon the evidence, the investigations that they have in student needs to help change behavior, but also provide consequences, because I think that's important too.
And no one is saying to you, no one is saying to administrators, keep your ISS numbers down.
No.
No, of course not.
No, but we are monitoring the data. We always look at data. We talked about, each building and district, we look at end of year data. We look at ethnicity, economically disadvantaged. We look at those to see if there's ways or over-identification or things that we need to work on, and we come up with plans, but it's not because we want to lower ISS or the EMIS part that we created ISA or lunch detentions or anything like that. We want kids in class. That's the bottom line, as much as possible. And the other thing that was stated that I heard, because I couldn't hear clearly, was 10 ISSs automatically means an expulsion. That's not true either. That's inaccurate.
Anything else?
Sure. Forgot to put this in my Butler Tech report, but Butler Tech has honors staff members from each division, and they honor kind of a teacher of the year. And I don't know if any of the teachers out there are listening. The teacher of the year was a Talawanda grad, I believe maybe around 2004, 2005. She now has a married name. I don't remember that, but I remember her. And so it just shows what a Talawanda education does for you. So some of you might remember Valerie Jenna. She was,
oh my gosh, she's another one of my preschoolers.
Right, and she was Butler Tech's Teacher of the Year. I saw her at the board meeting Tuesday night. That was really nice. And I thought, of course, she's from Talawanda. It makes perfect sense.
For some of these
you should. It was because of you.
High school kids.
Also, on Sunday, March 9th, I went to the regional basketball championship between Fairfield and Lakota West, and at halftime, the Ohio High School Athletic Association, whatever they're called, honored volunteers who have volunteered time for their schools in doing things like scorekeeping and announcing or stuff. So while I'm there watching my grandson play basketball, I got the privilege of running into Joe Pyfrin, who was honored for his many years of volunteering for Talawanda. What a great guy, and all that volunteering. Mr. Dan Zimmerman was also honored that day at halftime. It was good to see him and his family. And then Mr. John Witt was not there, but he was also honored. Sunday, John, being involved in his church a little bit, wasn't able to make the game. But the three of those gentlemen have given so much to our athletic programs. I mean, countless amounts of hours they have put in scorekeeping and other things for the students, athletes at our building. And so I want to thank them, and I was glad to see them being recognized there.
countless hours and years. I mean,
Years.
holy smokes, they've been doing it a long time. That's,
Joe Pyfrin was not one of my preschoolers.
Yeah. He's older than you.
Any other items from board members? All right, upcoming events, again, we've got a special session that we're just scheduling for this next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and the agenda for that, I assume, we'll get that posted by Monday. Correct.
Is there any way to do it any other day next week? I have a mandatory work meeting sometime in the afternoon, Wednesday. I'm not sure what time yet.
If you can get that information as soon as possible, we're a little time sensitive. We've got to work with our attorney's schedule too. So we're going to need to communicate with him. It can't be before that.
Okay.
I mean, it can't be Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
And then our, again, work session on April 14th, which is the presentation of the bids for the lighting replacement at the middle school and high school, and then our regular meeting on April 17th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Thank you all. Please bundle up for at least 2 days.